Today we're diving into the delightfully terrible side of the 60s, running through the awesomely bad songs that critics trashed, fans secretly loved, and you probably still can't get out of your head. They're good, they're bad, they're awesomely bad songs from the 1960s. Let's see how many you remember. Tiptoe Through the Tulips, Tiny Tim, 1968. So you definitely know the guy with the crazy hair and the ukulele who was always popping up on TV talk shows late at night. Well, that's Tiny Tim. And yeah, he was totally unforgettable. But let's be real, his whole act was so bizarre it actually made a lot of people squirm. When Tiptoe Through the Tulips came out, critics basically lost it, saying the whole thing was just a stupid gimmick designed to freak people out and get famous. His signature super high falsetto voice, mixed with that tiny ukulele, was just so over the top that listening to the song felt less like music and more like an endurance test. The spectacle was so profoundly weird, it shot him to massive fame, while also making him the perfect punching bag for anyone who thought pop music should be, serious. Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini, Brian Hyland, 1960. The summer of 1960 witnessed the commercial success of a song widely considered to be utterly frivolous and musically vapid. Brian Hyland, then only 16 years old, delivered this track, which quickly became a smash hit, soaring to #1. However, Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini was critically dismissed as an example of mindless ephemeral pop, designed solely for consumption and quick discard. The song's lyrical simplicity, detailing a young woman's shyness about her minimal swimwear, was seen by detractors as infantile, failing to meet any standard of songwriting sophistication. Its overwhelming catchiness, while driving its popularity, made it all the more irritating to those who sought meaningful substance in early decade music. I Got You Babe, Sonny and Cher, 1965. I got you, babe. You know music, so you know Cher. She's the icon, the total diva, the star who built a career that survived pretty much everything. Her incredible run started with the massive duet, I Got You Babe. But here's the thing, even though it is legendary now, back then, the serious rock critics completely hated it, calling it lightweight and a total ripoff of better songs. Sonny Bono wrote it, trying to capture that Bob Dylan folk vibe, but the whole thing was absolutely smothered in Phil Spector's dramatic wall of sound. Music purists saw this as way too much production for what was just a simple tune. A lot of critics refused to take Sonny and Cher seriously at all, thinking they were just a goofy, dressed-up pop act meant for TV, not real music. It was a song that critics loved to sneer at, even while every single audience member was screaming it at the top of their lungs. I'm Henry VIII I Am, Herman's Hermits, 1965. I'm Henry VIII I am, Henry VIII I am. While they were hugely popular in the mid-60s, Herman's Hermits faced constant scrutiny, and their record I'm Henry VIII I Am became a prime example of their reliance on silly, outdated novelty. The band took this obscure ancient music hall tune and covered it, securing somehow a #1 hit. The record was particularly scorned by serious music writers for its lack of substance and its absurd repetition, with the band famously yelling the line, second verse, same as the first. Second verse, same as the first. The track was seen as a deliberate abandonment of the progressive rock movement happening around them, choosing instead a childish, repetitive gimmick over serious musical endeavor. This insistence on lighthearted fluff led many to label the band as disposable and musically irrelevant, despite their chart success. MacArthur Park, Richard Harris, 1968. Parted pages and were pressed. You probably know Richard Harris from his distinguished film roles, but his musical debut was defined by a track so pretentious and lyrically nonsensical that it became a running joke. The 7-minute epic MacArthur Park was written by Jimmy Webb, featuring a sweeping orchestral arrangement that many found excessive and overblown. But the core problem lay in the famously ridiculed lyrics, centered on lines like, "Someone left the cake out in the rain. I don't think that I can take it. 'Cause it took so long to bake it." Yeah, critics piled on, calling the song inscrutable, pretentious melodrama and the very definition of poetic failure. Its ambitious scope and strange core imagery made it a magnificent, magnificent flop in the eyes of so many serious listeners, though its audacity made it truly unforgettable. Simon Says, the 1910 Fruitgum Company, 1967.
Do it when Simon says.
If you grew up with music in the late 60s, you definitely know the band that practically defined bubblegum pop, the 1910 Fruitgum Company. This group was the source of music so simple, it often drove adults and critics insane with its obvious lack of artistic merit. Their huge 1967 hit, Simon Says, took a children's game and turned it into a pop song, a move seen by many as a cynical exploitation of the youth market. The entire track is built on a basic rhythm and a repetitive chorus, leading many to dismiss the band as a non-entity, with songs that required no compositional skill. It was criticized as being factory-made, disposable junk food for the ears, lacking any of the lyrical or musical complexity that defined the era's best music. Yummy Yummy Yummy, Ohio Express, 1968.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy.
In a year of groundbreaking rock and social commentary, the Ohio Express track Yummy 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 stood out as a testament to mindless, sugary escapism. This recording, performed by studio musicians rather than the actual band, is the quintessential bubblegum anthem, yet it was aggressively condemned by the music press. The song's infamous declaration of having love in my tummy was widely mocked for being infantile, gratingly simplistic, and lyrically nauseating. Yeah, not great. Critics saw the track as a clear example of the deterioration of pop standards, arguing that its cloying sweetness and lack of musical sophistication made it actively painful to listen to, kinda proving that a song could be a huge hit while simultaneously being reviled by anyone seeking genuine artistry. Snoopy vs. the Red Baron, the Royal Guardsmen, 1966.
Up in the sky, a man in a plane.
The year 1966 saw the popularization of a unique yet musically awkward premise, turning the lighthearted comic strip adventures of Snoopy into a serious pop song. The Royal Guardsmen's Snoopy vs. the Red Baron achieved commercial success, but was frequently mocked for its bizarre concept. The track is a narrative ballad recounting a fictionalized dogfight, taking a cartoon character and putting him into a war song, resulting in a tonal clash many found ridiculous. The song's overly sincere martial beat and narrative structure were seen as taking a novelty concept way too far, making it an example of a good idea stretched way past its breaking point, and cementing its place as an awkwardly triumphant but undeniably weird novelty classic. Surfin' Bird, the Trashmen, 1963. Let's talk about a song that sounds less like music and more like a full-on chaotic assault on the listener's ears. Surfin' Bird by the Trashmen. When this hit the airwaves in 1963, critics didn't know what to make of its manic primal energy, and many dismissed it as incompetent, unlistenable noise. The lead singer's vocals are mostly incomprehensible shrieks and nonsensical repetitions of Papa Mau Mau, all laid over a frantic, buzzing surf rock riff. The entire performance is a messy, raw, and aggressively bizarre explosion, which is exactly why it became a hit. It was widely viewed as a terrible piece of music that succeeded purely on the basis of its shocking weirdness. My Boomerang Will Not Come Back, Charlie Drake, 1961.
My boomerang won't come back.
You might not know Charlie Drake's name, but if you were listening to the radio in the early 60s, this song was absolutely unavoidable. And it's the definition of a joke that wears out its welcome in about 10 seconds. Drake, a popular British comedian, released My Boomerang Will Not Come Back, a completely over-the-top novelty track. The entire gag rests on a single irritating joke about a boomerang that fails to return. Get it? That's it. Delivered through a high-pitched, exaggerated vocal performance and a truly offensive Australian accent. But somehow it became a massive worldwide hit, but it is universally condemned by serious music lovers as lowbrow. It's disposable comedy that actively made the airwaves worse. They're Coming to Take Me Away, haha, Napoleon XIV, 1966.
They're coming to take me away, haha, they're coming to take me away.
The summer of '66 was defined by a truly unique and genuinely disturbing entry into the charts. They're coming to take me away, haha. The track by Napoleon XIV is unconventional in the worst way, consisting almost entirely of spoken word, manipulated pitch, and the repeated refrain of manic aggressive laughter. This song contains no traditional melody, instead relying on its increasingly frenzied beat and the narrative of a man losing his mind. Its deeply unsettling subject matter and its complete lack of musical structure led to it being banned by several major radio stations that deemed it too strange and potentially offensive to mental health, honestly making it one of the most uniquely awkward hits of the 1960s. Dominique, the Singing Nun, 1963.
Dominique, mon bon père, regarde-nous simples équipes.
Here's a song that absolutely no one saw coming, and one that was widely ridiculed for its naive simplicity in the face of the emerging rock scene. The hit by Sister Luke Gabriel, better known as the Singing Nun, was Dominique. The song itself is pretty simple, perky French folk tune, and the entire production is strikingly basic, relying simply on acoustic guitar and cheerful, untrained vocals. But in a decade focused on rock and pop innovation, this gentle, earnest French language hymn was seen as unimaginative and impossibly square. While it did top the charts, many critics saw its success as proof that the American public would buy anything, no matter how far removed it was from contemporary musical trends. Monster Mash, Boris Pickett, 1962.
They did the Monster Mash.
Boy, the 60s produced a lot of enduring novelty hits, huh? But Monster Mash was, for years, widely regarded as a goofy seasonal trifle that would instantly disappear. The track by Boris Pickett, featuring vocal impressions of movie monsters, tells a simple, silly story about a monster party. When it was first released, critics dismissed it as pure novelty fluff, arguing that the record's only selling point was its clever, spooky theme, and that it actually possessed zero long-term musical value. The joke, of course, was on the critics. Its clever lyrics and infectious surf rock arrangement ensured its immediate success, as well as its status as a permanent yet undeniably campy fixture of American pop culture. Honey, Goldsboro, 1968.
Where honey lived and honey played.
Honey by Goldsboro is perhaps the ultimate example of a song that found massive commercial success while simultaneously being viciously attacked, pretty much just for its over-the-top sentimentality. The song is a lengthy ballad that tells the story of a man deeply mourning the loss of his simple, slightly clumsy wife. Critics were relentless, dismissing the track as manipulative, mawkish, and drowning in syrupy excessive pathos. The song's intense commitment to tragedy and its cloying, simple characterization of the deceased wife made it the target of widespread derision. Viewed by many as an absolute low point in schmaltzy pop music, even while the record-buying public made it one of the year's biggest hits. Winchester Cathedral, the new Vaudeville Band, 1966.
Winchester Cathedral.
Now, here's a song that was both a Grammy winner and a source of absolute bewilderment for many music fans. The new Vaudeville Band's 1966 hit, Winchester Cathedral, was an attempt at musical time travel, designed to sound exactly like a 1920s jazz record. Critics were baffled by this pointless nostalgia act, with the lead singer deliberately singing through a megaphone to make the recording sound tinny and old. The whole track was seen as a corny, inauthentic gimmick that ignored the musical evolution of the 1960s entirely. The fact that this calculated retro novelty soared all the way to #1 and actually won a Grammy, it left many in the music biz scratching their heads, convinced that the public had temporarily lost its mind. 1, 2, 3 Red Light, the 1910 Fruitgum Company, 1968. The Bubblegum sound's commercial success was undeniable, but its artistic failure was perfectly crystallized with the 1910 Fruitgum Company's 1968 hit, 1, 2, 3 Red Light. This track was criticized for taking the idea of musical simplicity to an offensive extreme. The formula was mercilessly mocked. A repetitive beat, simple instrumentation, and a chorus based literally on counting a children's game. Critics saw this as music that required no imagination, no effort, and zero talent, arguing that the group was merely pumping out sonic junk food with no ambition other than making a quick buck off of undemanding young listeners. It was a perfect piece of throwaway pop that reinforced every negative stereotype about bubblegum pop. Green Tambourine, The Lemon Pipers, 1967.
My green tambourine.
You know the song for its distinctive, dreamy psychedelic groove, but many people simply found the Lemon Pipers' Green Tambourine profoundly annoying. Released in 1967, the song is built around swirling strings and a psychedelic atmosphere. Yet the lyrics are bizarrely mundane, telling a simple story about a street musician begging for money with his instrument. This odd clash between trippy sound and pedestrian lyrics left many critics confused, and many found its continuous looping instrumental effects to be grating and distracting. It was a psychedelic hit that was ultimately filed away as a campy example of late 60s musical excess, more style and effect than true substance. The Ballad of the Green Berets, Sergeant Barry Sadler, 1966.
These are men, America's best.
Okay, so this song was a commercial juggernaut. Yet it drew furious condemnation for its heavily political and propagandistic content. Sergeant Barry Sadler's 1966 hit, The Ballad of the Green Berets, was a sincere patriotic anthem paying tribute to the US Army Special Forces. However, in the rapidly escalating Vietnam War era, the song was widely criticized for being tone-deaf and overly simplistic in its pro-military stance. Many cultural figures and critics saw the track as cheap, manipulative propaganda that ignored the human costs and complexities of the conflict, making it a powerful and yet highly controversial record that was either beloved as an anthem or despised as a political statement. Horace the Horse on the Merry-Go-Round, The Spinners, 1961. You may know The Spinners as one of the greatest soul groups of all time, which is why their 61 chart hit, Horace the Horse on the Merry-Go-Round, is such an awkward, ridiculous anomaly in their catalog. The song is pure, straightforward novelty, complete with cartoonish sound effects and a completely juvenile narrative about a merry-go-round horse. For fans of their incredible R&B output later in the decade, this early track is seen as a cringy, embarrassing misstep. A prime example of a great group having to record a silly children's song simply to get on the radio. It is a fun piece of trivia, but a genuine oddity that doesn't fit the band's brilliant legacy. Louisville Burglar, The Chancellors, 1964. The Chancellors' Louisville Burglar from '64 is a true garage rock obscurity, but one frequently cited for being fundamentally flawed yet fascinating. The main issue here that earns its spot on this list is the unusual and often off-key vocal delivery, paired with an extremely raw, almost poorly mixed production. The track sounds messy and unpolished, leading many to dismiss it as amateurish and sonically rough. Its charm lies only in its weirdness. It's a song that critics would have immediately thrown out for sounding so oddly sung and recorded, but whose distinct raw quality has kept it alive in the hearts of rock enthusiasts everywhere. Apples, Peaches, Pumpkin Pie, Jay and the Techniques, 1967. Jay and the Techniques created a sound often described as bubblegum soul, which sounds exciting until you realize how aggressively sweet and simple it is. Their '67 hit, Apples, Peaches, Pumpkin Pie, takes the infectious energy of soul but strips out any emotional or lyrical complexity, resulting in a song that critics found entirely too saccharine. The lyrics are pure, childlike nursery rhyme material, leading the press to label it as undemanding sugary fluff. Honestly, it's the perfect example of a song that uses a soulful arrangement to disguise a product that is ultimately built on the simplest, most lightweight pop components. Popsicles and Icicles, The Mermaids, 1963. The Mermaids' 1963 hit, Popsicles and Icicles, is an embodiment of the early 60s teeny bopper sound, which critics routinely dismissed as insipid and musically lightweight. The song is a gentle, dreamy track featuring soft, echoed vocals that perfectly capture teenage innocence. However, it was widely condemned as pure fluff with no artistic merit whatsoever. The song's entire focus on dreamy sentimentality was seen as a retreat from the exciting dynamic sounds of rock and roll and R&B, making it a target for anyone who demanded depth and energy in pop music. It's an example of a song that sounds lovely, but was savaged for its lack of substance. Sugar Sugar, The Archies, 1969. Alright, I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate from this one, and I'm sure I already have a lot of hate, and that's okay. These are awesomely bad songs, by the way. Well, this song was the single most popular best-selling song of 1969, and yet it represents everything serious music critics hated about pop music. Sugar Sugar was not recorded by a band, but by studio musicians for a cartoon show, The Archies, a fact that led it to being savagely dismissed as an utterly cynical manufactured product. Critics condemned it as the worst kind of commercialized garbage, seeing it as an attempt to sell records to kids using cartoons, with the song itself being aggressively repetitive and structurally bankrupt. It's the ultimate piece of factory-made pop that was unbearably successful, proving that critics' fury rarely stops the public from buying the catchiest song on the radio. Revolution 9, The Beatles, 1968.
Number 9.
Yeah, I know. Even the greatest band in the world could make something widely considered bad. And Revolution 9, well, it's proof. This 8-minute and 22-second sound collage on the White Album is the most divisive, unlistenable track the Beatles ever released. It's not a song, it's an avant-garde composition utilizing tape loops and random samples. For the average Beatles fan, it was a frustrating waste of 8 minutes on precious vinyl, slammed as inaccessible, pretentious, and an indulgence of John Lennon and Yoko Ono's artistic impulses. Most fans simply skipped it, finding its lack of melody and reliance on strange repetitive sounds, like the infamous Number 9, to be an unwelcome detour from the band's brilliance. Alrighty now you can let me hear it. But let's face it, those 60s tunes really knew how to toe the line between catchy and chaotic, did they not? It's kind of amazing how a decade that gave us some of the greatest music ever recorded also produced these wonderfully oddball tracks. So now we need to hear from you, the fans. Which one brought back a memory for you? And do you remember rolling your eyes or laughing out loud the first time you heard one of these probably novelty tracks? Well, please drop your memories, drop your stories in the comments below. Tell me which awesomely bad song from the 60s was your favorite and which could you not stand. And please, if I forgot one, add it in the comments below. We could always make a round 2. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe, share the video with a friend. But most importantly, from my entire team here at Do You Remember, I'm Nostalgic Nick. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, keep the needle steady and the jukebox ready, because you never know when Surfin' Bird might swoop in again.